where we saw those extraordinary pictures, tensions boiling over on the streets, and other cities too, Nantes and Rennes, as police clash with protesters during the largest May Day protest in some 30 years. One protester lost a hand, blown off by a stun grenade. Police set on fire by Molotov cocktails, one quite badly burnt, indeed requiring hospital treatment, being burnt on his face and body. And as we say, yeah, well, obviously you can see the violence there with the bins being overturned and the Molotov cocktails being fired. That was yesterday, just to remind you. And also in Nantes, that protester reportedly having a hand blown off by a stun grenade. Well, those protests triggered by President Macron's decision to raise the retirement age to France to 64, up from 62. But let's get more now with Paris-based journalist Peter Allen, because Peter, certainly the correspondent we spoke to yesterday was saying there's another element to do with this, and that is the, not anarchists as such, but certainly those determined to protest at the sort of rule of law, as they say, and the autocratic way that Macron has imposed these things.
Yes, Mark, there's a feeling amongst many here, including moderates, that democracy is under attack across the French Republic. Emmanuel Macron has used presidential decree to bring in raising the retirement age from 62 to 64. That's absolutely legitimate according to the constitution of the Fifth Republic. But it's a constitution that gives massive power to the president. He's, of course, got a parliament there. Technically, he can govern with a prime minister and with MPs, of course, but he's doing that less and less nowadays. And there's a lot of people who think that's a very, very bad thing. That's why opinion polls show that about 70% of the country is against this particular measure to raise the retirement age. But what we're looking at now is the sharp end of the protest movement. I was out at that riot, let's call it what it was, yesterday. And that was an incredible level of violence. Molotov cocktails, we say, being thrown at police, windows being smashed everywhere, banks being attacked. Really, really unpleasant. Gérald Darmanin, the Interior Minister, said today that the aim of this crowd was to kill a policeman. And looking at some of the things that went on, I think that's probably a fair thing to say. So very, very ugly times at the moment here in France, Mark.
Yes, indeed. I mean, as we saw those police officers, or CRS, perhaps riot police, being set on fire with Molotov cocktails, and protesters using staves, the police with the batons and riot shields, and a water cannon as well on the streets of the French capital. So do you think there will be now a reassessment by both sides of where this has taken France?
I think effectively it will carry on as before, if I'm perfectly honest. This was the 13th official demonstration against Macron's pension reforms. That's 13 whole days, obviously over a number of weeks. And there's been lots of unofficial protests in between. I say official in the sense that the local council allows the march as a particular route, and the government says that it's an important thing for people to be out on the street demonstrating, if not rioting. But it's the way France is organised. This kind of thing has been going on for years here. France is a revolutionary republic, of course. It's a protest nation. And one would expect that Emmanuel Macron, of course, will be watching what's happening and will be very, very concerned at how violent things are getting. But he's promised there'll be no U-turns. What has happened in the past, in the very recent past, is that presidents have capitulated to the street when the going gets very, very rough and very, very hot out onto the streets. They pull back on legislation. Yeah. Emmanuel Macron says he's not going to do that. He's going to throw his paramilitary police at the problem. Thousands of them in Paris yesterday, 5,000, 14,000 across the country. He's increasing the number of paramilitary units. He's going to fight the dissent and push through his reforms. And in turn, those who oppose him will carry on opposing.
And I guess politically, he doesn't really have much to lose. He's in his second term. He doesn't have to worry about running again for office, effectively.
That's a crucial point. The first election, he's one of the luckiest politicians in the world, or you could argue he's one of the best politicians in the world strategically. First ever election he ever stood in was to become president of France. Yeah. He won a second term after that. And now he has got 4 years left. He'll still be in his 40s, would you believe it? when he ends, and that'll be it. It'll be finished.